In Nevada, the law says that if you sell somebody's car at auction, that's why you had to sell it at auction to get the most out of it, in lieu of to help defray the charges. That if you happen to sell a car for more than the charges were, then and the person came and said, "Where's my car?" We said we sold it at auction. They would they would say, if they said, "Did it sell for more than was owed," or that kind of thing, then you'd have to prove to them that what it sold for and what the charges were. And if it did sell for more, you had to, upon request, you had to give them the difference of the money. Uh, Actually, that the car sold for more than what was owed in less than 5% of the cars that we sold. I remember one time a fellow had a Viper, a Dodge Viper, and we polished the paint and did a bunch of stuff and fixed it, and we spent a lot of money fixing it up, probably $2,000 or $3,000, and we ended up selling it for $30,000 at the auction. And about a month or two later, the owner came to pick up his car, and he said, "Hey, we sent you the notice." And he says, "Where'd you send it?" We gave him the address. He says, "Well, I moved from there." I said, "Well, that's the address the DMV had for you. Did you change your address to the DMV?" "Oh, no, I didn't." And they didn't mail, it wasn't forwarded or anything. And so he says, "You sold it at auction. You probably sold it to yourselves for like 10 grand or something." And I said, "No, that's sold for $34,000. And they said, "Well, I want the money." I said, "Well, since you asked, yeah, here's what the tow was. Here's the charges. Here's the money we spent on it to fix it up." And we ended up writing a check for 20-something thousand dollars. And he went out of there with a big smile on his face. He had no idea that someone was really going to do what they were supposed to do. In California, cars that are towed by the police departments, if they sell at auction, and any car that is sold for more than what is owed, the money is given to the police department or the state. If you sell it for less than what's owed, then okay, sorry, you took the loss. If you sold it for more, then you have to turn the money into the public. So one time, the interim finance committee of the legislature came down and had a meeting at McCarran Airport, and they had a workshop, and they had some proposed legislation, and they sent it out to all the tow companies. And I looked at the legislation, and it proposed a law similar to one in California, that if any car was sold for more than what was owed, then you had to give the money in, turn the money in. And all the tow companies were up in arms about it. They just thought that was just terrible. And I went and did some research. We had a computerized tow program that not only helped us find the car, but also tracked what the charges were, tracked what it sold for, if it was sold, or if it was picked up by the owner or what. So you could run reports on those things. So I got the report for the last 3 years, and I got the total number of cars that were sold at auction, the percentage of the cars that were sold for over what was owed, the amount that was sold for over what was owed, and the amount that was sold for less than was owed. And that amount, and it was like several $1,000,000 in arrears, and a couple of $100,000 over the period of 3 years of cars that were sold for more. And so in this workshop, tow company owners were going up to the front and were complaining about, hey, this is unfair, we should do this, this committee, and they were saying, yeah. And I had prepared these documents with the number of cars and the sales and all that kind of stuff, and it was a little handout of about 10 or 15 pages with all the facts and figures for the last 3 years for quality towing. And anybody else? And I said, yeah. I had my name on the list. I said, okay, come up here. And I said, you know what? I think it's not a bad idea at all. I think that that we would be happy to give any overage to the state as long as they would give us any shortage. And all the other tow companies were like, you traitor, what are you doing? Who let him up there? And I said, now for the last 3 years, we've sold X number of cars, would be 120,000 cars, and we're short of $3 or $4 million of charges that is money owed to us, and we have around 150, 200,000 that is overage. We would gladly give the state that 150,000 if you'll reimburse us for the other money that was owed of $3 million. And I passed out the papers to all the people in the committee and stuff. They looked at that, and that was the end of the discussion, the end of the workshop. And they thought that all tow companies made all kinds of money and never lost any money, never did anything. And those were the facts and figures of what really happened. And they never brought that up again at the legislature or any other place to have them rear their ugly head of doing that. Because all you had to do is facts and figures and talk reasonably about it, and not treated with emotion, treated with the facts, and reason with the people. And they found out that their tow companies only make money if you work them good, and that another time in the legislature they tried to we would send a notice of a lien sale out after 5 days. We had the car in our lot for 5 days, and we'd send the notice of the lien sale out. And once you start the lien sale, then you charge half the amount. And they wanted us to wait 15 days before we sent it out. And I said, you don't understand what you're asking. We have this big long tube of cars. We're towing them and going in, and then they come out and go to the auction. And if you pass this law, you'll force us to buy at least 5 acres more of property at $750,000 an acre. That's over $3 million, and we essentially won't receive any compensation for that revenue. So we'll have to raise our prices. So essentially, if you pass this law, it's going to raise the prices. And I said, if you have a problem with people charging the lien processing fee, you should regulate that, not the time, because the banks and everybody wants to be notified as soon as they can, but most of the people pick up the car, and I had done research of the cars that were towed. Most of them were picked up on the third day. I think like 85% of the cars that were picked up on the third day. So most of them were picked up before the lien charges ever gone, and we started notifying people. And I had some pointed questions from people in the transportation committee in the legislature, and I had the answers and the facts and figures. And then they said, well, how do we know you're not just making that up? I said, it's all a matter of public record. Go look at the lien papers, do the thing you can check yourself. I'm not just saying it. And so that idea was shelved in the legislature that year.